Hey guys, welcome back to today's video. Today is Monday, July 13th, 2020, and today we're going to be taking a look at Montana and their 2020 election survey results from public policy polling. So they recently released this poll as a result of a big push from, just people in the election community asking for Montana to be polled. I mean, this is a desperate cry for help considering the fact that pollsters rarely ever touch a state like Montana. There's nothing really notable about the presidential race, or so we thought, but we'll talk about the results here. But they do have a very competitive House race, governor race, and Senate race, and they all deserve a lot of attention and could very well determine the balance of power in the Senate. So, looking at these results, number one, bad news for the GOP. I think that's something that's been very consistent over the past couple of months just because of President Trump. If they are to win in Montana, it's going to be very difficult riding on a president's coattails when they're winning in single digits in a state that they carried by over 20% in 2016. So let's start off with the basics. Approval rating. Donald Trump is approved of in the state of Montana by 5%. He has a 51% approval rating, 46% disapproval rating, and 3% of voters are unsure or have no response. As for Joe Biden, he has a very low approval rating, a 35% approval rating, and a 56% disapproval rating. Again, this largely has to do with the fact that he's not, number one, the person in office, and number two, it's a general election. Doesn't matter if you like them before, you're going to end up hating the candidate that's running against your top pick. So for citizens of Montana, they may not like Donald Trump, but they definitely aren't going to like the person that would not necessarily align with their beliefs, even if they may have in the past. So, getting those two questions out of the way, I will say that President Trump's approval rating, I did expect to be a tad bit higher. I didn't expect it to be very tremendous, like something we would see in Alaska. Where are my glasses? I literally cannot see. So that's why I'm so zoomed in right now, but I literally can't find them. So guess we're going without glasses for this video. But I would say that I expected his approval rating just to be a tad bit higher, but I'm not going to say that he can't win with this approval rating. He absolutely can, and he probably will in a number of states. So as we look at the general election data, Donald Trump only leads Joe Biden by 9%. Only 9%. But the reason why 9% is so significant is because that was the Texas margin in 2016. That was the Iowa margin in 2016. Those were swing states 4 years ago. Iowa went to Obama at one point in time. 9%, there are a number of states, that were, why did I say twice? That were very solid for Donald Trump that have since narrowed up, and Montana only joins on that list. It's a 9-point lead for someone who won this state by 20% in 2016. That's not good. Losing 11% of voters is never good, and a 9-point lead doesn't translate to a Republican victory in the Senate level, which we will see in the next couple of questions. Looking at the results there, that's not good for the GOP. If Trump is able to win here by 20%, absolutely the GOP could ride on those coattails, except for the fact that Steve Bullock won the election back in 2016 with Donald Trump on the ballot, and even with his 20-point lead in the state, he won his election by around 5%. But now, if Trump is only leading by 9%, it's a lot more favorable for Democrats because a lot of these Republicans won't be riding on a lot of a coattail for them to actually win this election because Montana voters are very weird. They vote for Republicans on the presidential level, but are swing voters in the governor, House, and Senate level almost every 2 years or every, 2 to 4, depending on when the Senate election is up. So Governor Steve Bullock actually has around the same approval rating as Donald Trump, and his disapproval rating is way lower. So it's 38% compared to 46%. I know that percentage may seem different, but Steve Bullock, he's a very well-known name in the state of Montana. He's approved of by 12%. Donald Trump only has a 5% net approval. So that means that Steve Bullock is very much loved by the Montana voters. He's a Democrat. It's not like it's a Republican candidate. He's a Democrat. He should be mirroring Joe Biden's favorability rating, but he's doing something different, and Montana voters really do like him. They elected him twice, and they likely, based off these results, will elect him again. Senator Steve Daines, he came into power in 2014, and he actually, he was pretty interesting guy. I will say that I did expect him to do a little bit better a couple of months ago, but as Donald Trump's approval rating dwindles, not only here, but in other solid Republican states like Mississippi and Alaska, and states that we never thought would even be remotely competitive on a Senate level, much less the presidential level, Steve Daines is probably going to have a very difficult time winning re-election, considering that he only has a net approval by 1%. More people disapprove of Steve Daines than they do of Steve Bullock, so keep that in mind as well. He's not doing a lot of things that Montana voters seem to like. And I understand being a governor is very different than serving in the United States Senate. They don't always translate to a victory. Phil Bredesen is a perfect example. But Tennessee has always been really a solid Republican state. After Bill Clinton, it pretty much flipped to the GOP. Montana hasn't. No Republican has won the governorship in Montana since 2000. Same can't be said for Tennessee. Tennessee has not elected a Democratic senator since 2000, or at least 2000 was the last time that a Democrat held a Senate position in the state of Tennessee. So Montana, however, just recently re-elected a Democrat in 2018 and in a presidential election year. In a year that Mitt Romney dominated the state of Montana, Jon Tester was able to win his re-election bid in 2012 and then win it in 2018 despite a number of other Republican states moving back in their Senate levels. So it's looking very favorable for Steve Bullock at this point in time, and it's one Senate seat that could ultimately make or break the Senate map. If we go ahead and take a look at the Senate results that we are discussing, the Democrats always come within 49 to 50 seats, but if Montana goes, keep in mind there are a number of other Democratic seats that are already favored to go to them. Let's just go ahead and fill in quickly all of the safe states for the Democrats, or at least not necessarily safe, but likely or safe. This includes Colorado and New Mexico and Virginia and Illinois and Minnesota and Michigan. So at this point, with Montana, that puts them at 48. And they're already favorites to win Arizona, to win North Carolina at this point, to win Maine. So that automatically puts them at the overall majority. And that's not assuming the Democrats could win in Iowa, which they could, or in Georgia's Senate special election, or in Alaska with an independent who will likely caucus with the Democratic Party. Now, I'm not saying the Democrats will even come close to 55, but Montana puts them one step closer, and it looks a lot more favorable for the Democrats than it did in the past. So besides that Senate race, the Steve Bullock leads Steve Daines by 2%. 10% are not sure. I understand this is a Republican state, but they will probably split pretty evenly. Again, they vote very different than they do on the presidential level in the Senate elections. So I do think that this race will come down to the wire. It will ultimately, be very difficult for the Democrats to win, but also it looks like if the trend continues, the Democrats will end up being the clear favorites in this race. Right now, I would say they're narrowly ahead, but a lot of work still has to be done to solidify a victory for the Democrats in this traditional Republican state. Mike Cooney is the incumbent lieutenant governor in this state of Montana, and he has a 27% approval rating, 25% unfavorability rating, favorable. And looking at, I guess you could say, those results, around 50% of the state doesn't even know who he is. Now, that's definitely not good. For someone that is serving in political office, someone who serves under Steve Bullock, someone who ran with him, and still not known by around 50% of the state, that's not good. Greg Gianforte is known because he's the sole representative from Montana, won that special election, and very not too well known because of the fact that he body slammed a reporter. But he still maintains a 40% approval rating and a 47% disapproval rating. 12% of voters are not sure. So Mike Cooney has a lot of work to do in terms of getting out name recognition and being able to discuss with the voters and actually win them over, but he's not polling too horribly. He's down against Greg Gianforte by 4%. Keep in mind the Democrats have consistently won this governor race since 2004 and on, so it will be pretty bad for the Democrats if they aren't able to win it here, but also nobody's really expecting it to be a landslide for either party. It'll probably be close, but Greg Gianforte seems to be the favorite right now. Now, Kathleen Williams, she is the House of Representatives candidate. Montana has one sole district. It'll likely have two after the 2020 census, but still, they only have one right now. It's a statewide one. Matt Rosendale is running for this race. Greg Gianforte actually is the incumbent House of Representatives member, but now he's running for governor. He was actually the failed nominee back in 2016 against Steve Bullock, so he's back again, and Matt Rosendale is now running for Montana at large. So both of them share around the same favorability rating. Matt Rosendale is a little bit lower than Kathleen Williams. Her disapproval rating is definitely lower than his. But I will say that, Matt Rosendale, he does have a realistic shot at this race. It looks like it's an exact tie. So that's going to be mildly difficult for the, let me think. This is a traditional Republican state. It's going to be difficult for both parties to win this race. The Republicans typically are the favorite. They won it in 2018 despite it being a Democratic wave year. It's going to be difficult for Kathleen Williams considering that she's tied right now. She really should be ahead given that Donald Trump is only within single digits in the state, that he might end up carrying by nearly 20% if he's able to recover back to his 2016 levels. But I do think that she's going to have a realistic shot at this House race. She did in 2018. She was actually the Democratic nominee. So she does have a possibility of winning here, but I don't think Democrats should bet on a pickup in Montana. But it is possible. Now, if we look at the 2016 election, this polling sample was actually mildly representative of what the results were in 2016. Donald Trump got 52% of respondents' votes. Hillary Clinton got 36%. So Joe Biden definitely has increased amongst support. Donald Trump has also decreased amongst support in this state. So keep that in mind. And the rest of this is just all demographic data. So this Montana is actually a very interesting state itself. Though it does vote for Republicans pretty consistently on the presidential level, though it was a swing state in 2008, besides that, has almost always been for the GOP. They're competitive in the House race this year, in the Senate race this year, and the governor race this year. So while we may not be looking at the top of the ticket, we will be looking at those down ballot races, and they will definitely throw in some surprises on Election Day, or at least whenever they count in those mail-in ballots. So Montana, crucial for the Democrats in the Senate, not so much in the House, but it would be nice for them, especially going into a redistricting year. They'll have a Democrat incumbent who could run in one of the districts, and then the governor's race would only be continuing the long Democratic streak that has been held in this state. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Make sure to comment down suggestions below. Please consider subscribing on the left if you haven't already, and check out our Instagram and Twitter. Go ahead and check the next video on your screen. It's pretty much geared towards whatever you watch on my channel, and then a playlist for my 2020 election predictions. Again, thank you all for watching. Please consider joining as a member on my channel, and I will see you all later today.